What's up, world? This is DJ Ollie Red, and you are tuned into a new episode of the All Things House podcast. Tonight, we got a very special guest, my man, DJ, producer, record label owner, the owner of Deep Tech, man. What's up? How you doing, brother? Mr. Wright. Before I wanted to get started, I wanted to give a moment of silence for everyone that has lost their lives prematurely to, either crime, either police brutality, anything right now. I just want to have a moment of silence for everyone. So can you please join me in that, please? All right, brother. So, my man, Mr. Wright.
I'm here. I am here.
You're here, man. So, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. All things considered.
Yep.
I'm doing all right.
Okay.
I hope you're doing all right as well.
It's definitely heavy hearts right now. But with everybody trying their hardest, I mean, we can get through this, together. But
virus too. Can't forget the virus.
Virus too, man. It's one thing after another, man. One thing after another. But yeah, let's get into this this house music thing, man. So let's start from the beginning. Let everybody know where you're from, my man.
Well, my name is Mr. Wright. Wayne Wright is my government name. I am from White Plains, New York, Westchester County. That's where I was born, but I have lived all up and down the East Coast, as far south as South Carolina, as middle Atlantic is Virginia, which is where I really call home. That's my adopted home.
Okay.
And Washington, D.C. is where I spent the majority of my formative post-high school year. Let's say the past 12 years I was in the D.C. area.
Okay.
With 2 years in the U.K. We'll get into that at some point. In the United Kingdom, Loughborough, Leicestershire.
For sure. That sounds dope. Yeah, we'll definitely get into that right there because they have a beautiful house scene over there.
Currently San Diego. I almost forgot. I can't forget the place I live right now. San Diego, California.
Beautiful San Diego, man. We love it out here for sure. So we met. I believe we met through a fellow DJ, and we played an event together, and that's how we kind of became cool from there, right? Is that?
I think it was a West Coast kickback through DJ MTK.
MTK, man, shout out to the homie for sure.
But you had reached out to me just slightly before that, which is kind of ironic.
Crazy, right? Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to put you on. You're like, I think I'm playing that event. I was like, all right, forget it.
Yeah, I remember that for sure. So when did you first become, really aware of the house music scene? Was that more when you were upstate, or was that more like in the DC area?
That's a great question. I first got into electronic music, believe it or not. I was first made aware of it in the early 90s.
Okay.
With KLF.
Okay.
Names are escaping me. It's the German techno group where one of the members just passed away. I can't think of it right now.
Just passed away. I'm not sure.
Oh.
Not sure.
Oh, Kraftwerk.
Okay.
Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
and the reason for that was my father was kind of into electronic music.
Okay.
So it wasn't taboo.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was my first introduction. But for real, when I started DJing, it was about 2007. 2007?
Okay. And was that a long process, or was that kind of one of the things like, oh, one day I woke up and I wanted to become a DJ? Like, what was the inspiration of you want to become a DJ?
Well, I started out doing hip hop.
Okay.
Like a lot of folks of my persuasion would.
Yeah.
And I realized that I wanted to do more with the music. Specifically, I wanted to be a little bit more artistic than just transitioning from song to song and having to play out an entire song like verses. Say it was Wu-Tang, which I really don't get a chance to play out, but they have like 7 verses.
Yeah.
Where people would be offended if you would transition before verse 8.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I got to keep it moving here. So that's when I really sort of said, I'm going to switch my focus from hip hop to electronic music.
Okay.
And so 2007 roughly.
2007.
When I really took it seriously, again, having those early influences, but to say, hey, look, I like moving the crowd for an extended period of time, and I like these sounds, and I want to be somebody that is able to create dance floor vibes, vibes that are not necessarily urban.
Yeah, for sure. Now, as far as, becoming a DJ, because I like to ask the guests, for this purpose is for upcoming DJs or people that want to become DJs. How did you get your first start? So from the thought of you becoming a DJ to actually stand behind the decks somewhere in front of a crowd, how did that happen? Did you have a mentor, or did you kind of fumble your way through it and then it's kind of make it from there? Or
let me dive into that. So I graduated college in 2006.
Okay.
I was supposed to graduate in 2004, but it took me a little longer. I did systems engineering with a focus in electrical engineering. So I graduated in 2006, and I started working straight out of college. I got a job offer and started working over the summer. And I found it very boring. I did a lot of hard work for 5-6 years, and when I got out, I was like, well, I need a hobby. I need something to occupy my time. So I went down to one of my buddies who I knew from college. He used to DJ, and he was in the IT department. And I said, hey, man, look, I want to learn how to DJ. You got to give me a lesson. So I said, yeah, come by the crib, and we'll put some vinyl on. And he was a vinyl guy.
Okay.
So he gave me two hip-hop records that were not the correct tempo. And after he did some really cool stuff, he just kind of left me and said, figure it out. Yeah. So I remember the first record I had, I think it was Paul Wall, Sitting Sideways, and it was another track. I can't remember what it was, but I had no concept of beat matching at that point. I had no idea you could move the pitch fader. I was afraid to even touch the needles because I didn't want to break my buddy Doug, who used to go by DJ Caliber. Shout out to Doug. And I didn't want to break his stuff. So I'm like, how does this thing work? I'm playing this thing that's maybe 80 beats per minute to something else that was not the right tempo. So that was my first actual time touching turntables. But it also should be mentioned that I used to DJ house parties in college with Winamp and Windows Media Player. Yeah. So those two instances are my first experiences DJing.
Yeah, I I'll always love to ask that question because usually it's kind of the same answer. You start at like a family wedding, or your dad or your mom or brother or somebody has some type of equipment, and then they usually kind of go from there.
Yeah, and one more thing I'll add to that. My dad's from New York, South Bronx. Moved us out of the city, so we didn't have to grow up in the city. In that environment, but I do know that he used to he used to DJ on reel-to-reel tape players. Yeah, that sounds bad. My father did not deal, not at all, unless it was cards or something else that has nothing to do with that. But he used to DJ house parties in Queens. On reel-to-reel tape decks. Yeah. So I always thought that was interesting. So I always grew up with a lot of electronics in the basement, wondering what they did and how I could use them. So that's how it started.
For sure. So from that step right there, the first time, I'm getting behind your boy Doug's tables. How long did it take you from that time to actually step out in the crowd or step out in the scene and kind of take over?
Yeah, it took me about a year before I was confident enough. Let's be honest, I wasn't confident when I first started DJing, but the first opportunity that I had that I took to DJ was, no, that's not entirely true. So before I got my first paid gig, which was at a bar in Fairfax, Virginia called the Old Shebeen, from me buying 2 CDJ 800s and a mixer that I bought from my buddy Doug, it took about a year. But I DJ'd a couple of house parties, and I had just graduated and I had a job, so I had these CDJ 800s, which looked like spaceships at the time to anybody else, because nobody had seen real professional DJ gear at a house party in college before. So most of the people would just look at the lights and the CDJs, and I'd show them you could do the virtual scratching. So that made me a celebrity right there.
Yeah.
And I had to rent speakers and all of this stuff. But that's how I kind of cut my teeth. And then I got an opportunity down the road to do a recurring gig at a Irish pub.
Okay. So from that I like to establish like a little timeline. So from that time right there, spinning hip hop, when did the transition from hip hop to house music happen, like out in the club or playing for others?
That's a great question. So when I started, I was told I need to prepare for all situations. So I was given lots of hip hop. I was given lots of R&B, 80s, you know, your top 40 type stuff. But I also would get some classic house because I was told, hey, you know, somebody might want to hear some Baltimore club music. So exactly. You got to have some Baltimore club. You got to have some Alley Us, ALY Us, you know, Follow Me, you know, that classic song, which I'd heard, and I was very familiar with those songs.
Yeah.
So I just stockpiled a bunch of stuff, and I'd go through it, and some of it I didn't know, but I knew the house songs, surprisingly. So I already had, even unbeknownst to myself, a what do you call it, a background in house music.
Okay.
Okay. The question, what was the question?
When did you make that transition completely? Yeah.
See, that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that it's always been there, right? So the house music has always been there. The Baltimore club music has always been there. I used to go to clubs in DC before I even remotely thought of DJing, listening to Baltimore club music. Watch Out for the Big Girl. Alley Us. You know, those songs were in the vicinity, but I was mainly focused on, you know, Neptune's.
Dominated,
you know,
around that time, Virginia
clips.
Yep.
Yeah. This is in DC, but everything that was in the clubs that was popular, but you still had those nightclubs where you're playing Baltimore club music. You're playing a little bit of like maybe black house music, meaning that, you know, it's a little bit more underground.
Yeah.
And so that bass, and then moving into at the time, which you know, before it was even called EDM, it was just dance music where you had some Eric Prydz, Call on Me, piano. You had, oh boy, I don't want to, Federico Franchi. You know, things that people started sampling for top 40 stuff. Like, I'm not going to give a rendition, but you know, some of the classic songs that people know. I was getting that influence. Yes, I got into doing house music when I started to that I already had a good bass in it, and I started to say, well, let me sort of move a little bit away from sort of the hip hop and the you know, the verses and playing the same old commercial stuff, and later in the night kind of moved more to electronic music, which I just felt was so there were a lot of opportunities to sort of express my creativity, but let's be honest, a lot of the beats were really good. You know, there was a lot of melodies. I mean, you had powerful bass lines and things like this. So I said, well, let me try that. And I remember starting with, you know, Sandstorm, Late Night, Federico Franchi, that song that Pitbull sampled, Crazy, but I forgot what it was called. Initially, it was, you know, it's that you remember that? What was some other good electronic? Prydz really hit me way back before he turned into what he is now. But, you know, Call on Me was very influential to me in 2006. I think that's when I first hit. And I said, something about that track. It just, I still love Call on Me. And I would play that to death.
For sure.
Back then. And then I started to get cuts of radio tracks that were made for the radio, for dance radio.
Okay.
Remixes by Dave Alday and, you know, Thin White Duke, I think, was one of the guys.
Okay.
There were a number of guys that were really doing a lot of radio remixes, like of Beyonce or Rihanna, and adding an electronic take.
Yeah.
But I don't even say EDM. Nope. EDM did not exist. That term did not exist. It was called dance music, electronic dance music, electronica.
Yeah.
And what's my favorite guy? Paul Oakenfold. He even had some good cuts, and I would try to introduce people to that with familiar lyrics, because we all know a lot of people like the lyrics. That's what brings them in. But to put it with a different backing that wasn't hip hop, that wasn't, you know, sort of, you know, what we're used to hearing on the radio. and you could hear it in the club.
Mm-hmm.
And it would, I think it would bring people back like, oh, that he does it a little different. He plays Beyonce, but he plays like the electronic version of it.
Yeah.
I like that.
What was there in the beginning? Was there any, not backlash, but was there any, meeting, kind of like they didn't like that at first, and then you had to kind of massage it into them, or was it like, bam, one day it was here, next day it was.
It's so funny, man, because I think a lot of it has to do with, again, you got to know your crowd. So and also had to know my situation. So my dream was always to DJ in DC, which I've done many times since returning to the US back in 2011. Because I will talk about this later, but I moved to the United Kingdom, and I moved to England specifically in 2009.
Okay.
But I was in Fairfax, Virginia, which was not a place that most people would go out on a Saturday night. I was usually at a college bar that was local, so I had a captive audience. So I could play, your top 40, your 80s, and I started to get people into a certain pattern over the year or the year. I was there for 2 years, so I could start out with 80s and sort of stuff that was radio friendly, move into more pop stuff, tempos around 117 to 120. And then I had an option. I could either go into really kind of down tempo, 70 beat per minute hip hop, or trap, as they call it, or I could take it up, depending on the crowd, to electronic. And I used to find myself kind of getting out of the whole like dark club environment to more electronic. And it just happened naturally. I could just get there.
Yeah.
From that top, because a lot of the stuff that was on the radio was taking elements out of electronic music. So
yeah.
Long story short, I started ending the nights with electronic music.
Okay.
I have people jumping up and down, pumping their fist to Sandstorm.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, and another thing is with Sandstorm and with those really high energy beats, I could then cut the tempo in half and then go into the trap hip hop if I needed to.
Yep.
Or I could, start to experiment with some of the newer stuff. Gosh, I cannot remember the name of that Federico Franchi track. It'll come to me at some point. I gotta. By the way, he passed away recently. I found that out.
Yeah.
It's an Italian producer that gave Pitbull that whole "Crazy" is what I'm thinking. But I know the song was something else. I'll have to look it up. But go right ahead.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So as far as those little timeline update. So from that's 2008 to 2009ish, right around that time. Now, then you moved. You said to the to UK, England, correct?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yes. Was that for a job, or what was that for?
Yeah. So glad you asked. So I was working for a company that was British owned, BAE Systems.
Okay.
And I got it, oddly enough, in 2000. I think it would have been 2007 when I had kind of started my DJing journey. I came out to San Diego for a systems engineering conference. The international conference was here. And I happened to meet a bunch of people from the United Kingdom that worked for BAE Systems. And I was like, man, let me try to get these cards. Let me follow up with these people. So I followed up with them and I pestered them and I said, hey, I would love to move to the United Kingdom. That'd be great. I'm an engineer. I would love to pick up everything that I've got here in the U.S., leave it, and come over to the U.S. or come over to the United Kingdom. If you'd be happy to sponsor me, I'd be happy to drop everything and move over there. I was about 20. How old was I? 25 when that idea happened. And one thing led to another, and it actually happened. And I ended up picking up all my stuff and flying over one way to the United Kingdom. And I got there in 2000. What year was it? 2009. It was January 12th, 2009 was when I was walking to my job.
Yeah. To
be paid in English pounds. And I stayed there for 2 years. And the thing was, it wasn't a military thing. A lot of people thought, oh, you're in the military. What is a black person like yourself doing here in the UK, living here and getting paid? They either thought I was an athlete that played soccer or football, as they say, or basketball, or they thought I was in the military. And I would say, no, I'm just here. I'm working. I'm here on a legal immigration visa, and I'm here to learn about you guys' culture.
Cool. That's dope. That's real dope, man. I wish more people can have the experience of kind of like it's almost like being an exchange student or living abroad for a while, just to experience different cultures and all that stuff and how they treat their people.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're not just their people, but just to understand that there's different cultures than the United States.
Correct.
There's different, even though England and the United States speak English, we speak a very different brand of English.
Yeah, for sure.
And even if the rest of the world can understand American and Canadian accents better, English person will always be very quick to remind you that they invented the language. So even if you can't understand them, that's the true English, because guess who invented it?
King's English.
England.
Yep, for sure. Yeah. So when you got over there and kind of got settled, did you begin DJing there as well, or no? It was just kind of.
So just like anytime you set foot in a different scene, you're not gonna start straight away. You have to learn the culture. You got to scout the venues. You got to go into a place, have a drink. If you don't drink, have a soda. Talk to people, listen to the DJs that are playing, understand what's going on, and appreciate the culture before you come over and just try to do your own thing. Yeah. And I spent the better part of about a year before, maybe a half a year before I was able to, number one, get in, understand where I could add some value to the scene, to the culture, which is not my culture, and talk to the manager. The entertainment manager is the euphemism or the generic word that seems to work with people. Who's the entertainment manager here? Hey, guess what? I do music. He's like you and everybody else. But no, I'd be able to, build a rapport with them. And before you know it, I got my first opportunity to DJ, shortly through the first year.
Okay. So how was the scene different than the one you previously left in America?
It's very interesting. It was different in that it was, I sort of wanted to go to a more, let's say, of course, everyone wants to do a nightclub. Everybody thinks that, oh, you're in Europe. Okay, so you can do that Ibiza stuff. You can do that underground stuff. That wasn't the case at all. The case ended up being that I wanted to get into the hottest nightclub that was in the small town that I lived in, which was called Loughborough.
Okay.
Loughborough, Loughborough, which I thought, I pronounced it Loughborough. And they said, oh, you must be American. You're not from here because it's Loughborough. So I said, yeah, whatever, Loughborough. So I went to this place called Vodka Revolutions, which was the hottest club. It had the most money in it. They had this big, this lady, right, that was covered in glass. And she was the disco ball. And she would just kind of spin, and they had lasers, and they had the thing where you could hook up your Serato if you had it and do music videos.
Okay.
So I realized, okay, these guys are really advanced. So I'm going to have to really be on top of my game to even compete with these guys, right? And it was very much similar to what I did back in the States. But here's the weird thing. There are certain like English where, we have like, what is it? Follow Me, or, some of those house music things you just grow up with. You don't know the name of it, but you just grow up with. Well, there was now the Artful Dodger. You had, which is UK Garage. People want to hear Dizzy Rascal. Dizzy Rascal is how it says it. You had a gentleman by the name of, at the time, pretty unknown to American ears, but Calvin Harris. 2009, I was DJing. I had this black British woman come up to me, and she said, "Do you have any Calvin Harris?" And I thought it was a black guy. I thought it was reggae or dance hall, and I didn't know it. And I said to her, well, I don't have any Calvin Harris. I only have good stuff. I only have good, I was a little arrogant to her. And she's like, you've not heard of Calvin Harris? It's like, I've never heard of this guy. And Calvin Harris will be the first to, his real name is Adam something. And he changed his name so that he would sound black. So when I first heard the name Calvin Harris, I thought it was a black guy.
Yeah.
And then I started to listen to Calvin Harris, Ready for the Weekend, and born in the 80s. And I was like, yo, this guy's a genius. And then we'll get to this part later when I returned to the U.S. And then the U.S. got introduced to Calvin Harris and Rihanna.
Yeah.
So somebody at some point said, hey, Calvin Harris is great. He's huge in the UK. Everybody knows him. Let's just pair him with Rihanna. And then all of a sudden that Hopeless Place song came out.
Boom.
And everybody was like, oh, this is the best song. And it was actually, to me, one of his least imaginative songs that I had heard, because I'd heard his early stuff in the UK. So I'm sitting here, I'm the guy that's hating. Well, this is okay. Come on, man, this is a great song. This is such a great song. But yeah, that's what the UK allowed me to do, was to understand that there are artists that you might not know about.
Yeah.
But someone in England might know about them, and a lot of times these English guys come over here, and they do very well in the UK.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's, maybe I've gotten off the
No,
track here, but I had to learn. Yeah, I had to learn new music.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some good examples. Crookers. Did you ever hear the Kid Cudi? Everybody's heard Day and Night. A lot of people have.
Yep.
When I first moved to England, the Crookers remix of Day and Night was huge. You couldn't go to the nightclub without hearing it. Okay. At least once, and it was the anthem. So these are things that later on I took back to the U.S. and was sprinkled into my sets.
Some new stuff, or new to us in America.
No, it's a good point. I mean, but it's new, and the ear likes new things. Yes. What's this?
Yep, for sure. And that's they kind of push the house music culture right now. And then we kind of get things. Well, obviously now with the internet, the world is very, very small. But around that time, they kind of pushed the culture, and then we would get things like a couple months later. And by the time we got it, it was older to them already.
Well, absolutely. There's a song, "Yeah Yeah" by D. Ramirez.
Yeah.
They had this synth on it. It was like, I'm not even going to try to do it.
Yeah.
But you guys look this up. Yeah, D. Ramirez. I actually, something I forgot to mention, I took a DJing course, Sub-Bass DJ Academy. Check them out. Cool. Graham Lloyd is the head of that now. Graham had this 2-day intensive DJ course that I took in London, and I met a bunch of really good DJs that I'm still friends with today. Kiraz, also known, her real name is Ellen Ekdahl. She's from Sweden. I met her that day at that DJ course. I met a gentleman by the name of, I can't think of his name right now. We used to call him Welly, like a Wellington boot.
Okay.
I can't think of his full name right now. It'll come to me later. But he did trance.
Okay.
And the point is that D. Ramirez actually also teaches at that school. So missing out on tracks. D. Ramirez remix. What's that one? Princess versus Superstar by I can't think of the guy's name. You guys will look this up. But some of those sounds were not in the US. And there was that UK sound. And it's like, I don't know what that synth is. Yeah. But if I could get that over to the US, that's going to make people go crazy. And then guess what? Someone else figured that out. And that's why we have EDM. And because somebody was like, we got these sounds. What do we call it? Electronic dance music, EDM. So now you have a whole generation of kids that are going to festivals, that are listening to music now. And they think that it's not that they think it. This is what was told to people. Yeah. But it became EDM. Yeah. And it was really, even I had that idea, like, these sounds are dope. These will work in the US, but what do we call it? And then you have, David Guetta and the Black Eyed Peas that took those sounds and infused it into the sound that was already known out here. And now we have EDM. EDM,
yeah, that's true. So as far as getting those gigs, did you have like almost a residency over there, or was it kind of onesies and twosies, or is this how did that work?
I had a Thursday residency. It was sort of a trial period, and I think I actually lost that residency at one point. I think I was playing some stuff, and maybe somebody got to talking and they say, hey, we're going to go with this other guy, because they were trying to figure out the night. Yeah. So that competition, actually, I'm still friends with those guys. Like there was a guy named, I don't think I ever competed with him because he had the Saturday night residency. Okay. I couldn't compete with him. But a gentleman by the name of Chris P, great DJ, still in the UK. I think of Indian, or as in England, they call them Asian, right? So we say Asian to mean people from the Far East. When they say Asian in the UK, they're talking about India, Pakistani, Zimbabwean, via India. So again, British guys grew up there, but those were the guys that were really killing it. Chris P and the gentleman by the name of, what's his name? DJ Juvie. Okay. So I had to compete with some of those guys, and I learned a lot from them. But they were always curious about my understanding of what they call R&B, which we call hip hop. Yeah. So they'd be like, "Hey, the R&B, but we." I was like, I want to do the house like you guys, the electronic music. but we want to do your R&B. We like that. That's really big here in the UK. So there was a sort of give and take.
Okay.
I learned something from them. I learned some Artful Dodger and some Craig David. And I'll say, hey, man, you guys, you know, if it's really late and you got everybody vibing, put on a little bit of Mobb Deep, Shook Ones, or put on some Jagged Edge or whatever. So there was a trade, because again, we didn't have Spotify at that point. We didn't have those things we could trade music. It was like, yo, you got this track that you bought. I got these tracks from the US. I got some underground stuff that you guys can't get. Let's trade. Let's get that synergy together. And that's what it was like 20, my goodness, it's 2020. That's what it was like a decade ago. You couldn't, there was no SoundCloud, there was no Spotify.
Nope.
There was no like, yo, man, look what I got. And it was starting to delegitimize the share, bear share. And all that.
And Napster and all that stuff. Yeah, LimeWire, yep.
It was only iTunes, and you couldn't get certain music across certain country lines. So there's still music videos that I have on my iTunes that you in the United States cannot get, because I was in the right area. In a geofencing. So I could buy Adele before Adele was famous. I could get those videos. And then when I came back here, I try to get videos like Popping Bottles on the Ice, the G6, you remember? I would go back to the US on Christmas to see my folks, and then come back, and I'd have these videos that they'd never seen before. And then I was in demand. Like, whoa, what is this? I was like, oh, don't tell anybody, but I bought this overseas. You know? So.
Cool. Now, as you were there for what? You said 2 years, correct?
Yeah, 2009 to 2012 is when I was asked to leave the country. I got deported. And it wasn't anything bad. It was just my work visa had expired. I went to the mainland of Europe. I traveled for a month, came back, said, hey, I want to stay around. And they were like, well, you know, do you have a job? I was like, no. And they were like, well, how much money do you have? I was like, not much. And they were like, yeah, well, you got to leave. You gotta go. Which leads into that whole coming back to the States and wanting to start a business, wanting to start a label.
So as far as, you know, just before you said you kind of the visa expired and all that stuff, you're trying to get the things together. Can you kind of give us some experience of the living over there, being, you know, African-American in a foreign country?
Yeah, I mean, it was, to be honest with you, being a Black American afforded me a lot of opportunities that I feel like other folks over there wouldn't have. So people would look at me and say, hey, well, you know, you can't wear this, that, and the thing. And I say, well, why can't I wear this, that, and the thing? I say, oh, you're fine. They could tell by my accent that I wasn't from there. So all of a sudden, I was viewed a little bit differently. You know, some of my Americanisms were looked upon well by a lot of the British people in my professional job at the time. They'd say, oh, well, you know, we don't really talk that way, but we like it because, you know, you're American. So I would be afforded a lot of leeway in the UK. So I felt as an American, Black American, decently well-spoken and all of that, you know, I never had any problems, never had any issues, really. Only thing I was worried about was bombs and knives, you know? It's not like, you know, guns are harder to get over there. So it's not that there aren't any there, but they're harder to get. So, you know, I worried about walking through the council house. It's just like, council houses are what we call projects over here. And it was such a weird scenario because I'd be the only Black guy walking through the council houses of all white English people. You know, due to socioeconomic status, I was like, hey, I might get robbed and stabbed. So I was that guy looking around, like trying to get to the train. But it's just different, man. The world is a very interesting place when you take yourself out of your comfort zone and out of your echo chamber and all of that. To just really see how things are working elsewhere. Yeah, for sure. So it opened my eyes.
For sure. So from England to back to America, did you go back to like the Virginia, DC area, or did you kind of migrate out here to San Diego?
No. So I spent, when I got back in 2011, I spent some time with my folks and I needed to get rehired. I got hired by the same company I was working for in England. And I worked there for 2 years. And I came back and I was sitting on a plane. I said, I'm going to start a business. Because in the UK, I was not a citizen. I was just a person that had a work permit. So I said, man, I'm coming back to hey, sorry to everybody else in the world, but we call it the greatest country and all of that. It's a little offensive to some people, but I'm like, ostensibly it could be economically. So I said, well, why don't I have a business?
Yeah.
Why don't I start a business? Why don't I go get an LLC? Why don't I sit there and do what a lot of other immigrants did? And I'm a citizen. So the first thing I did was I learned how to start up a limited liability company in the state of Virginia. And I started Wisdom Entertainment, which is the company I still have, but we do business as Deep Tech. And that's when I started getting into the music business, the entrepreneurial part of it, not just DJ, which a lot of people want to do. Everybody wants a DJ and everybody is a DJ, but who actually wants to go in and establish a brand to say, tell a bar owner, hey, I'm going to do a night and I'm going to attract business for you. And I'm going to do it in a way that nobody can copy.
Yeah.
And if you end up getting tired of me, no problem. I'll just take my brand and go somewhere else. And that's when I got very focused on the brand, the business. Also around that time, I got into Mark Knight and Tool Room Records. And I realized I loved that guy has a label. He can throw a night, make his own music, and just go places. So I realized that there was power in that. And that's why that's one of the reasons I'm owning a label currently. Is 10 years ago, that was the vision that I wanted. I wanted to have that power to be able to say, I'm gonna throw a night, I'm gonna have a brand.
So once you started that brand, you're in that area. How did that, the process starting of going out and reaching out to different, venues and places to push your brand for their brand ultimately?
My man, so I started Wisdom Entertainment. If you go to, you can just to help out the people that are looking to start a business. If you go to, I think it's www.wisdomend.com.
Okay.
It initially had a different name, but if you go there, you'll see videos on the services that I used to offer as Wisdom Entertainment. So I started that brand and I started doing some videos with some folks that had businesses to say, hey, we'll do a music video for you, we'll do art for you, but we want to use you as sort of like a guinea pig to show our skills. And a great product that was developed. So once I had the product and the advertising, I started going out to places I wanted to DJ at. Now I knew that I needed to do some scouting, so I go out, there was a bar and still is there called Mate down in Georgetown. Okay. And I said, hey, this would be perfect for the style of music that I play and the brand and the lifestyle that I'm trying to promote. So I negotiated for quite some time, a couple of months, and finally got in there and ended up with a 2-year residency until the management changed. Now
with that residency, were you the main talent in that, or were you bringing in other DJs for your night or whatever kind of?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So initially, I really attached my brand to that establishment, which later turned out to be a mistake.
Yeah.
Because when I said, well, Wisdom Entertainment, which was me, is playing every Friday at Mate and Saturday sometimes. I really used that brand, and I'd get bottle service and say, hey, come out. I bought a bottle, come out and kind of see what we're doing, see if you like it. And that's how I first marketed it. And it went well for about a year. They were paying very well. It was a very competitive pay. I had to demonstrate that I could play the kind of music that would appeal to their clientele. They would eat Asian fusion, sushi, and all of that. But they also had this gigantic screen up, so I could do the music video. So I had to cater to that. And eventually I got in pretty well with them. The problem is that I guess the management said, hey, well, we're going to do a little bit of a cleanup here in some of the employees and the staff. So we're going to start from scratch. And when they got a new manager, that manager was like, hey, yeah, you're great and all that, but we're going in a different direction. So I was just out just overnight. So I had built this whole brand around that store, around that bar.
Yep.
So now I'm out. So now a lot of people were coming to hear my music and go get that Asian food and all of that. And then when I had to move, I had to start again. So I realized that it's better to build a brand and a following that you can move, that's mobile.
Yeah.
Don't attach it to the brick and mortar. Attach it to your clothing line, to your, later down the line, I started a label. That took a while because I had to learn how to make music and good music. That took me about 5 years. But now I feel like I have a brand and a sort of a lifestyle and a reputation where people know that I'm in charge of it, and I can put it in San Diego, I can put it in DC, I can put it in the UK, I can move around. Not unlike sort of what Tool Room kind of instilled upon me 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Create something that's yours that you can take, and it might not happen overnight, and make it good, make it catchy, make it cool.
Yeah.
So that people want to sort of follow your tribe. That's what it is. You have to build that tribe.
For sure, for sure. So how did you make it from there to kind of out in San Diego? What frame was that?
Yeah, so 7 years in DC, 7 years hard work building Wisdom Entertainment, and then that became, so 2012 to 2017, that's 5 years.
5 years, yep.
I really focused on, at the time, my name was DJ Wisdom, which is where Wisdom Entertainment was.
Yeah.
And then I kind of moved out of that and said, hey, I want to do like more electronic music. At that point, I really had a good appreciation for tech house, techno house, which I grew up with, a much better understanding. And I got better as a DJ and as a producer to start to create good underground vibes. And then around 2014, I started throwing events, which I'm still paying off some of the debt I got in. And started doing party promoting, working with other DJs, putting them on, throwing boat parties. And then in 2017, we said, hey, one of my business partners, Arshan Puladej, Kim Thompson, and we all kind of coalesced, and we worked and came up with this brand called Deep Tech that happened in 2017 at a place on North Capitol Street, which was in DC.
Yep.
And we did a brunch party, and we did Sundays because that's low-hanging fruit. Nobody wants to do Sunday unless you got Monday off. But we sacrificed our sleep and our jobs. Luckily, I didn't get fired for coming into work tired and with roadmaps for eyes and things like that. But we put in a whole year of hard work, built the brand, got a good following. And after those 5 years, I got an opportunity to move. Sorry, it was 5 years of the Wisdom Entertainment, 3 years of Deep Tech. And around the end of that third year, I got an opportunity to move to San Diego.
Okay.
So I took the brand and I bestowed it upon my deputy, Kim Thompson. I said, man, let's keep that brand like tight. Let's keep people wanting to be part of these boat parties, this brand we built. And I'm going to go out and put down a flag ever so politely. There's a ton of people out here, right? And we get it. Everybody's got a brand. Everybody thinks their music is the best, and everybody's got shows. But I said, hey, look, I'm not going to roll over and change my style. I did have to understand, like I said, in England, you have to understand what's there. You don't want to just come in and just, start scorching the earth. Be like, hey, I'm the new guy in town, and this is how things are going to go. Yeah. It wasn't even close to that because we've got some really good collectives out here. They really understand the California culture. I bring more of that East Coast culture because I'm from the East Coast.
Exactly.
You don't see me with colorful stuff, although we are going to switch up some of the colors with Deep Tech, because I understand California is colors, and it's beaches, it's bays, it's all of that dude stuff, and a lot of feathery stuff, and burning man stuff. But and that's fine, and that's that culture. But I'm going to appeal to the culture that I represent, that I know. So the flag was planted. I said, hey, I'm here. People thought we were going to be a flash in the pan. But I was used to losing sleep on Sundays, so I threw a recurring party on Sundays at Blonde Bar and Cava Lounge. We got Blonde Bar and Cava Lounge, and they saw that I was really committed. And so after a year, I think people here that sort of doubted the Deep Tech and doubted Mr. Wright were like, yo, this guy's serious. He's not going anywhere. And he's offering us gigs. Let's work with him. Yeah, for sure. And that's what time frame was this, 2018? You moved out here, or 17? Yeah, man, this August, I'll have been here. The second week of August, I'll have been living in San Diego for 2 years. 2 years, okay. So I moved here in 2016, December 2016. So I'm a little past that right there. So I've been here for a little while. You're going on 4 years then. Yeah, going 4 years. Yep. So let's talk about the house music scene. One question. So Deep Tech, is there a Deep Tech East and a Deep Tech West, and maybe a Deep Tech UK, or how's that? Yeah. Let me give a shout out to my guys that are working with me. Brian Dodson, who goes by Odson. He's an artist. My good buddy Kim Thompson. who's repping Deep Tech DC, my Chief Information Officer, Mark Egan, who does Twitch. Well, we did a coast to coast show. I think it was 2 weekends ago. This Sunday it'll be 2 weekends ago. So we did a 12-hour set.
12, yep.
From our buddies in the UK, our affiliates in the UK, to our affiliates in Washington DC, to our affiliates in San Diego.
Yeah.
Shout out to Nathan Gorey, Sierra B. And yeah, with this pandemic going on, we were able to utilize the Twitch platform and do the streaming. We spun everybody up. Shout out to Grecifer. She's also on our team. And we're able to kind of get this whole 12-hour live show. And so, yeah, to answer your question, there's a Deep Tech DC officially. There's a Deep Tech SD, which is what I run. But we'd love to see a Deep Tech Chicago, a Deep Tech Detroit, Deep Tech Orlando, Deep Tech Austin, Texas. Deep Tech. Also, shout out, no confusion, to Deep Tech LA. There's a really visionary producer and label owner. What's the name? Redux Saints.
Okay.
My good buddy Jason. He does a completely unaffiliated Deep Tech party. Okay. It's called Deep Tech LA. Although he and I talk quite often, and the reason we talk is when I first moved here, I saw that there was already a Deep Tech. So I reached out to Deep Tech LA and said, hey, look, guys, we have the same name, and I definitely want to do my thing. And he happened to be in San Diego that week and said, hey, it's no problem, man. Let's be friends.
Oh,
so
cool.
Shout out to Jason Trevor Miller of DTLA, Deep Tech LA.
Yeah. Check
them out. Great producer. He's released on Tour Room. Somebody that you definitely want to be aware of.
For sure. That's dope, man. That's dope. So let's talk about some of the parties and maybe some of the venues that you have, thrown events at. I know during this pandemic time, it was a staple in a bar you mentioned before, Blonde Bar.
Blonde Bar and Kava Lounge, yes, sir.
So as far as the pandemic, I know a lot of places that didn't, unfortunately, maintain their business, unfortunately. So they kind of, they had to shut down. I said, unfortunately. As far as seeing the brighter side of this pandemic, the other side of it, how do you think the pandemic is going to affect the house music scene? And like the scene in general, bars and clubs.
Yeah, and stuff. I think the scene's gonna rebound. People are gonna remember how fun it was to go out. I think what it's gonna boil down to is how if people end up not having amnesia, but how quickly we move past that fear of the contagiousness of this COVID-19. I remember the last event that I went to was at Blonde Bar. It was a shout out to Oscar B, West Coast Weekender, and those guys. They were doing a techno event called Mr. Roboto.
Yeah.
I had to go out there and support. But I just remember we were still on the very beginning of this thing, and the bar that we were at, Blonde Bar, who looks like they've gone out of business. But I just remember they were just so proactive. Plastic cups, hand sanitizer everywhere. Yeah. It made us feel safe. And I know that the true patrons of that establishment, all the people that I really like, that I respect, not this popularity contest, but the people that I respect in the industry were there, right? And I don't think anybody knew that that'd be the last time we'd all be together, but it just felt right, man. It was a really cool event. Yeah. And that was the last time I set foot in that place. And so to answer your question, I think you're going to still see people with masks for a long time, especially really hypochondriac people. You may not see people coming out for a while. It's gonna be a slow build. I also think that the streaming culture is going to really take root, and some people are going to stay in that because you don't have to really not compete, but sometimes you can't get into these venues unless you're bringing $1,000 at the bar. Yeah. $500 at the bar. Like, you have to have good bar sales and good turnout to stay in some of those places. So I think that the streaming culture is going to really take root. Yeah. Moving forward. So I think people are going to be better at production because we've been quarantined or so let's say social distance. We haven't truly been quarantined, but we've social distanced ourselves by staying in if we can and working from home. You're going to see a lot more producers out there.
Yeah,
you're going to see people that got good and are going to start to make music. You're going to see a lot more of that, and you're going to see maybe some more labels popped up. But that's my forecast. But I think things will return to normal by 2021.
Yeah, my team and what we're kind of thinking about is doing a lot of, music production is right now is number one on our plate. And two, once things start opening up a little more, we're projecting that things will take it back to old school where the house music began, in a house. I think it's going to be more, small, intimate, 15 to 30 people at max gatherings.
So you're saying house parties? You're talking house parties?
House parties, man.
I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that.
Like we'll have some little drink. We'll have a little not a crazy sound system, but a sound system that'll sound good with 30 people max. And then it's just kind of rock out from there, man. And then the good thing about that is, if you kind of start that now, say for example, I had one tonight, I'll be able to start my branding and my following with 30 people.
Right. Yeah, but that's the way to go. That's the way to go.
Kind of build from there, and then 2021, that 30 people turn into 150 people. You know what I mean?
So we call that the 80-20 rule.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
You got 20 hardcore fans that really love you for you and love your brand, and you can only really embrace about 20% of your following anyway.
Correct.
If that 20% happens to be, let's say, all right, let's just say for numbers, the 30 people that you said is 20, right? We'll round it up 100.
Yeah.
There's 80 people that's just there, that's going to just, dip their beak in and just taste it and whatever and make themselves look good. And that's fine. Those are the people that, maybe buy your merchandise, maybe come out, make it look like you got a good party, but you got to take care of that 20%. And that's one thing that Deep Tech had really focused on. I used to tell my team, I'm like, let's focus on that 20%. If you're in that inner 20, the people that were supporting you when it was the house party, they were like, hey man, I think you guys can do something. Hey, we really like Deep Tech, we like this concept. Those are the people you take care of. Those are the people that you comp by the time the stuff is out of control. Because believe me, once you got 80 people asking you to be comped, and it's a 20 to deserve it. It's going to get out of control. And guess what? Those 80 people, those guys are a bit more transient. So, but if you build a good enough brand, people are going to come. People are going to have said, "Oh, I heard about these people. I want to see them." That's your 80%. You keep the original, the OG homies, as they say out on the West Coast, I guess. Yeah. Keep those people close to you, and you take care of them.
For sure. So let's get into. I know you mentioned the Deep Tech label. Let's get into that right there. I know you said that was like almost 10 to 12 years in the making. And
when you think about it, that's crazy. But yeah, absolutely.
But
12 years.
But also you got to think, everywhere that I've seen, you see that obviously you have anomalies of the DJs or the producers that make it big with their first song. But the majority of the time, it doesn't happen like that. You know what I mean? Most people.
I would contest that it even happens, right? So there's a lot of stuff it's like EDM. Like I told you, okay, so I used to hear these sounds and I said they would do well in the States. Yeah. So somebody beat me to the punch. Not that I was ever going to be capable of it, but then EDM came up, and now you got people that are, people in your 20s. Yeah. People in your 20s, we always think we think, hey, we're the best generation, we're the smartest, and look at these artists that are coming out. Oh, they're so talented. Well, a lot of times, people like myself that know talent and can see the talent and say, hey, this person's got the look, they got the production chops. Those are the people I will put on, because, the people that are in their 20s or whatever, they'll just eat it up because they don't know that there's people in their 30s that have already lived that, or in their 40s. Yeah, you know what I mean? So all I'm saying is, when you see certain people blow up, let's talk about this, something that's kind of close, near and dear to my heart. Dearly departed, rest in peace, Avicii. Mm-hmm. So I first heard of Tim Bergling, that's his real name, Avicii, in when I was living in the UK, and I got a promo CD of one of his tracks. I think it was what's it called? I can't think of the song, but it was something about love or something like that. And I remember getting the promo CD, and I wasn't like in love with the song. Based on what I was playing, it didn't really cater to what I was using. But then we all know what happened. He blew up, right?
Yeah.
He did very well. He has some really good songs. Very talented producer. But the narrative they were pushing at that point was, oh, this kid's only 22. He's only 26. He's young. He's a prodigy. So come see him because this is something special. And they kind of built the music that way. It's very euphoric and happy. And I was a big fan of his music. It's amazing. But then he kind of got into that whole commercial thing and all the people that's watching this. Or he was accused of being too commercial.
Yeah.
A lot of people that are watching this podcast are probably big Deadmau5 fans. I'm not a big fan of Deadmau5. I appreciate what he's done. Not talking trash, but he used to dog Tim Bergman.
Yeah.
And anyway, we all know that he passed away before he even hit the age of 30.
He was younger. I think he was younger.
I'm in my mid to late 30s, but he passed away. But the point is that when you have all of that media, all that attention, all that Instagram, all these follows, all of these likes, which we now know, not Avicii, but we know that likes can be bought. We know that a lot of these likes are fake. So all I'm saying is don't get caught up in the hype. Build something that's going to be sustainable.
For sure.
Everybody wants to blow up in their 20s. It's hard to happen for real, because usually if you blow up in your 20s, somebody else puts you up there because you don't have the basis to understand how to do this. Like, how can you be a good producer, be on tour? Somebody put you there.
Exactly.
It's not, you don't put yourself there. It's not like, oh, this guy's really talented, let's put him on tour.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you have somebody else that's already built something that says, okay, I want this person, I want this person, this person. Those people are famous.
Yep.
You don't make yourself famous. Fame makes you, or you don't make yourself wealthy. Wealth makes you famous.
Yep.
And that's something that I just want to just say. So I'm playing the long game.
For sure. And that's what I was saying. That was my point was right there. It was 10. It's almost like, that 10-year mark is your first year of kind of not stardom, but like you're understanding, you're in your groove. You're in your, like, it compared to like an NBA player. You're in your prime. Or a sport player, whatever you want to play, football, basketball, whatever. At that 7 to 10 year mark, you're in your prime. You experience to the ups and downs, and now you kind of understand how the game is getting played now.
I believe so, but I do have to mention this. Praise the year, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
He was a prodigy. He was like a prodigy, but he also worked hard too.
Exactly.
You can look at any of his documentaries. They say he outworked everybody. He had the talent and he outworked everybody, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I always felt that I had talent, but nobody else knew that. And I knew that I'd have to build myself up to a certain platform.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have to spend years doing this, learning how to produce. Shout out to Berklee School of Music online. Definitely look into that. You guys trying to do this stuff on YouTube. Pay for a course, get some courses, get some professors that's going to help you and give you feedback. Loudon Stern, shout out to him. He's a great influence on my music production, which is why I was able to start a label. So, Loudon Stearns, look him up. Berklee School of Music online, look him up. But I knew that I would have to put in 10 years of learning compressors and filters and how to EQ and stuff like that because nobody else wanted to do it. They just wanted to go out and play something by Camel Fat or Fisher. Yeah. Because you press play on that, of course, everybody is going to love what Chris Lake, because those guys have spent years doing this. Chris Lake was making music back when I was in the UK. Yeah. But he got real famous recently, and now he's one of the most in-demand producers. But that took him at least a decade and a half to get to the level that he's at. So don't fool yourself. If you really want to be good in this game, it's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of hard work.
Longevity. That's what it is. All about longevity. Playing a long game.
I hope that what you're doing is going to, work out for you too. So, I mean, I see you and I recognize the hard work. I really love this podcast, by the way, man. Big up to All Things House podcast, man. I really see that entrepreneurial spirit about you. And I totally respect that. Yeah, man, I saw this and I said, this is dope. I hope he invites me on the show one day.
For sure, man. For sure.
And here I am.
For sure, man. For sure. Yeah, so let's get back into that late label, man. Because right here, this is like I remember when you told me about you're going to put it out, and I was happy about that for sure. And so as far as a label owner, let's kind of talk about owning a label. Kind of the beginning. You don't got to go like far, every single detail. But for everybody that's has aspirations of starting one,
how does it work, right?
Yeah, give a little knowledge for that.
Okay. Where do I start? So the way I started the label is I was throwing parties, right?
Mm-hmm.
Parties, you meet
Mm-hmm.
people.
Mm-hmm.
And I got an opportunity to remix a track for a buddy who owned a label, who still owns this label.
Okay.
And I said, hey, man, look, we're going to start this thing in San Diego. I want to fly you out, get to know you a little bit better, but I want to put you on. So first year that I was here, we brought out one of my buddies who owns a label. And I know that, you know, to start a label, it's not that hard. You just need distribution, right? Electronic distribution. Now you can get on iTunes, BeatPort, TrackSource, whatever. You can do that through LabelWorks, or you can do that through symphonic distribution. There's a number of other ways you can do this. But you just have to find somebody that will vet you, make sure that you actually know what the heck you're doing and that you're making decent music. And they'll allow you to sell your music digitally. Back in the day, it was out of the trunk of Eazy-E's car, or it was in Chinatown making mixtapes with DJ Clue. But now it's all digital. So if you can find a distributor, you can put your music up there. But it's a job. Like running a label is not like just like, yo, man, I do a label, I got it. It's a business. So I said, hey, I don't want to learn how to do all of the specialized details. I kind of want to just produce. So my buddy allowed me to open a sub label underneath his label. Okay. So if you have a LabelWorks, say LabelWorks is the people we're talking about, or even symphonic distribution, or some examples, CD Baby, which I'm not a huge fan of those guys because it's a little bit more older, back when you had to make CDs, and things of that nature. Anyway, he said, look, he said, I want you to spend a year and just kind of front load about 15 tracks and get about 15 remixes so that you have a nice library of tracks. So I spent all of last year basically coming up with tracks, making not remixes, but originals.
Okay.
So this year started, and I didn't even end up with 15 tracks. I think I ended up with about 10 or so, but they were all created by me when I was living in Poway, and just kind of sat in my room and spend nights up like, oh, this is cool. I use this, use my music theory that I learned over the years and said, okay, I'll do an Egyptian scale. I'll do some Hungarian scale. Okay, this is A minor. Okay, this is a Phrygian scale. I'll do this thing to get this vibe, because everybody's vibing off G house right now, or maybe I need something that's a little bit more ethereal. Maybe I need something that's a little funky. So I use my knowledge that I learned at Berkeley and make tracks that were gonna fit the narrative that I wanted to have at that particular moment in time. So some of my tracks, tricks, back it up, flutes, these are tracks that I just kind of came up with, and they've become pretty decent, you know, not like top sellers. Anyway, the point was is I took all of those ideas and I put them in folders, and I got them to a point where I said, okay, now a year later, it's time to start up the label. So we start the label and we say, hey, please take our music. We have good music and we know what we're doing. So the label's like, all right, send some music. We want to see if you guys are good. Do you guys have a website? Do you have a SoundCloud? Do you have, you know, Instagram? Like show us all the stuff that's going to show you that you're going to be successful on our platform. So we get all of the information and the music, and we front load it all. And they sit down and say, well, we'll approve you. We got to approve you. A couple of days goes by. Congratulations, Deep Tech. Actually, we got the congratulations. DT Recordings is ready. I said, oh man, I said we got to do Deep Tech Recordings. We got to go back and tell them to change it. My buddy goes, nope, we can't change it. Once you get it, can't change it. I said, oh, they're gonna change it. I wrote a very nice email. I said, sir or madams out in the UK, we spelled our name wrong, and it's going to be very important that our label matches up with our merchandise and all of that stuff. So please, for the love of God, could you please change it from DT Recordings to Deep Tech Recordings? And guess what? They got back to us in a day and said, no problem, we got it sorted. Don't let it happen again. So, you know, we plug and play, and before you know it, bam, we have a label. We're on BeatPort. And now we're just trying to just, you know, have people that will submit tracks. You know, we do the whole demo thing. You send me something, you send it to, I think it's dtrecordings.wetransfer with https://dtrecordings.wetransfer.com. I think that's right. Send it to my inbox. I'll vet it. I'll see if it's appropriate for what my vision is, because make no mistake about it, it's my label. And I put out what I want. And I don't say that to be mean. I'm just saying that, like, it's nice to be able to say, well, this is what I will play. Or I like this. Or I mess with this track. So I'm putting it out. And then if I get something that seems a little bit too contrived, or it's too 2011, or it's too fist pumping, a sound that I think is now 10 years ago, which I used to love too, Swedish House Mafia.
Yeah.
You know, the Tiesto, that stuff. I'm trying to get it more like back to the roots of it.
Okay.
And basically what I think is cool. So yeah, so if it's a little bit, if I don't feel like it fits, I'll say, hey, look, that's not the vibe we're going for. And it's not trying to be mean, but that's my right. I've built that.
Of course.
I've built the label. So, you know, not trying to get like self-righteous, but this is one of the things that you get by building your own brand.
Of course.
You get to make that call. And how many times have maybe you send out something to a big label and they don't get back to you, or they just say, well, this isn't for us. That happened to me a lot. I send out tracks. It's not for us, not for us, not for us, not for us. Even if it's good, some guys that I respect, I was like, yo, this is good. This is good. They're like, I like it. I like this. I like that. I just don't like this thing. So it's not for us.
Yeah.
So you can never win. But if you start your own label, you always win.
Exactly.
Because you put out whatever you want.
Exactly. And that's a good thing about ownership too, as well. Because you own it. I mean, it's your shit. You know what I mean? Hey,
you got it, man. And that's something that, you know, in this day and age, you know, not trying to get too socially conscious, but, you know, look, we're all humans, we're all Americans here. Start a business. If you're American, start a business, get your LLC, build some wealth. The next thing I want to do is buy some property, get a house. You know, I've got I got my college degree, and I need a house or something like that. But right now I'm doing my entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
You know, I'm in the music industry on the side. I have a 9 to 5. Don't make that mistake. Quit your job and think you're going to make a living off this music thing. Because look what happened.
Yeah.
Got a virus. Now you can't have music festivals. Now you can't get all of these huge, what do you call it? Not bonuses, booking fees.
Okay. Yep.
I mean, you can't do it right now.
Yep.
So that showed the underlying weakness of the music industry. The bottom fell right out.
Yep.
When you can't go and be with a crowd. So keep your 9 to 5s, unless you really think you got it. Unless you're making enough to keep the lights on.
Yep, that's for sure. Okay, so the ownership of the label, right? You said that you were kind of going back to the same way with the DJing, with all that stuff, having your own thing. You sent stuff out, necessarily didn't get, you know, the response that you wanted. So that's kind of the foundation on you creating your own type of thing.
Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Dirty Bird. Tool Room. You know, these are big labels that people know about. What's another one? You got to help me out here. I'll get some interaction. Plastic, big label.
Plastic People. There is Hot Creations. There's Divine
Jamie
Sounds.
Jones.
Yep.
Sure. Great names, big names, right?
Yeah.
Now, Hot Creations, correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, Jamie Jones is a Welshman. Even though he looks like our persuasion. Yeah. You know, he's British.
Yep.
I don't know. A lot of these Brits that do very well, they live here on the West Coast in LA.
Yep.
You know, they've done well. You know, they got visas to live here.
Yeah.
But they're definitely going to look out for their people, their folks. You know,
of course.
If you get somebody like I don't know, I don't know if it's a surprise that there's a lot of successful British acts in the U.S. There's a lot of successful British actors in the U.S. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a lot of those people, those labels. Those label owners, unless you are killing it, unless you got like a crazy, amazing sound, they're going to develop their folks. So what I think is cool about Deep Tech and Deep Tech Recordings is that I can put on my folks, people that I feel like deserve an opportunity to get their music out there, get their music heard and understand and learn the lessons. I'm not in this to make a ton of money because I think it's very rare that would happen. But if I can get the music out there, I can get other folks opportunities to show their name on the label, and if they put in the work and the music's good enough, I'm putting it out. For
sure. Now being so during this time right now, we have all this craziness in America. There's police brutality. There is the rioting, peaceful protesting, which kind of leads into the writing. Yes. But
there's both.
But I want to focus on the peaceful
Absolutely.
stuff. And as far as, you know, being Black in America and having ownership, of something that possibly is going to be huge. Can you explain for any people that look like us?
Mm-hmm.
Explain to us about ownership of something greater than you, for example.
Well, let me address it. I'm glad you brought that up. I think it starts with me. Like, so I was talking to my roommate the other day, and I said, look, I was given a great opportunity, a great platform from my parents, who worked very hard to move out of the projects in New York City to give us a sort of me and my siblings, a middle class life and a good education, which I have. So I feel like for me in this current situation in 2020, which is kind of like this rapturous time for a lot of people, an awakening. I need to get back to my community. When I was younger, my father taught me how to play chess, which is a very patience-based, long strategy game. So I feel like a lot of the things that I do is the long play. I play the long game. I want to go back to, I don't know if, you know what, I'm not going to be apologetic. People.
For sure.
I'll go back to the Black community and teach young Black boys and whatever how to play chess, how to DJ, how to do the things that I've done, that I've been privileged enough to have the opportunity to do.
Yeah.
I've had the privilege to get an education that I can do this as my side hustle. Yep. You know, there's some people that will never get a pair of turntables, never have the opportunity to DJ a house party. So I'm saying right here and right now that that's what I want to do. So I understand the protesting and all of that stuff, but we all know that over time, you know, the excitement's gonna die down. And you know, some people would say, well, Wayne, why aren't you out there protesting and blah blah blah? Because I like to say again, long game.
Long game.
So I'm telling you that what I want to do is I want to take the things that I've learned and that I've been privileged enough living in the UK, being able to, you know, pay out of my side money to learn how to make music. I want to go back and give that to the community, and maybe the community will give back a little bit more to the house. When we say house, a lot of times we're talking about Black music that we created that doesn't really get the respect that I really feel like it deserves. Because, but also it's not really supported. You know, right now we're really into trap music, hip hop. Nothing wrong with that. That's what I grew up with.
But I did.
I'd love to see. I'm sure because you're from New Jersey, right?
Jersey, yep, all day.
You're from so we're a tri-state area. Are you South Jersey or North Jersey?
I grew up in South Jersey, but I went to college in North Jersey, and my older years in North Jersey before I joined the Marine Corps.
Right. So you're tri-state. We have those tri-state values. We have that New York, Northern New Jersey hustle. I mean, there's no denying that you're given a hustle when you come from that area.
For sure.
You just it's born into you.
Yeah,
it's born into you. So I want to give that back, and that's what I'm telling you that I'm going to do. I'm going to do that. That's going to be my vocation, is to go back and go to the communities of DC, maybe San Diego, whatever, and teach some of the values that my dad taught me.
For sure.
And that's what I. I don't know if I answered the question, but that's what I want to do.
No, we'll talk about that offline for sure, and try to start something, because once you said something that kind of sparked my mind for something else. So we'll talk offline about that venture for sure. And getting back to you mentioned, you know, the house music scene it's not a big popular genre of house of music in, you know, the Black community. And
well, I would say in the younger, let me clarify that. I think in the younger community, because when you and I were coming up, hip hop was this thing. It was crazy. It was like, whoa, we have this thing that's unique to us. It's not from Jamaica. It's not from Africa. It's not from wherever, the UK. We invented that style. That is culture specifically to the United States, Black United States, right?
Correct.
And it's become one of the most profitable, money-making. Jay-Z, Kanye West. These people are billionaires, right? Billionaires, multimillionaires. Let me not go crazy with it.
Yeah,
but they're pretty wealthy.
Yeah,
that in the late 80s, early 90s was pretty shocking, and it's still to this day, which is why I've always been influenced by hip hop and that style of culture. But I like to take that, put it into a culture that I didn't really know that well, but I learned it and was so shocked to know that, you know, Detroit and Chicago and New York City created that.
Exactly.
I still try to take hip hop influences, any musical influence really,
For sure.
R&B, and put it in the house because it's such a flexible genre.
But as far as the
You know,
but as far as the house scene, you know, we created it. You know, it was created out of desperation. It was created out of pain for no one. You know, the blacks, the gays, and Latinos.
it was
Those were
disco. It was disco, right? You know, and the disco became.
Yeah,
Right.
what disco died out because they killed it. That was black music, Spanish music, or Latin music, and for gays. Then the house music scene. Then the house music scene came, and then once again they killed that as well.
Well, it never died. It just went underground.
No,
right?
no,
The disco, they thought they killed it, but it became house, right? And that's why Frankie Knuckles and them call it house was disco's revenge, right?
Correct.
Because if you're doing that old school thing, you got them strings. Shout out to my boy J. Paul Ghetto, who kind of is bringing that sort of that flavor back, right?
Correct. But the point of maybe saying that is it left America. It left America, and then that void got filled with hip hop and R&B. You got to think the timeline of it.
Good point.
Boom.
Very good point.
So then now we grow up, being black kids. The only genre of music that we're accustomed to is hip hop and R&B.
That's a great point.
So throughout the years, you know, obviously you had the sprinkles of house music, Follow Me, all stuff like that. Of course, we love that. I'm from Jersey. We got the Jersey house, kind of similar to the DJ house, all that stuff. So I get that point. But the majority of it is hip hop and R&B. Now, what I'm trying to do, and the last podcast I had with some fellas out of LA, some brothers at LA, Mark Cole, big shout out to him, and Bret Hart. They're a collective noise in the hood. So they're
I like it.
Dope, right? So their thing is they're bringing house music basically to the hood, or to bring it back to the black black culture. Sure. You know what I mean?
Or just reintroducing it, right? I mean,
exactly.
It was there, right? You know,
exactly.
So my dad, he grew up with all of the soul stuff, right? So my dad met my mom out at a house party in Queens, so my dad was DJing it, right? I was talking about the real to real.
The real to real, yep.
Right, old school, right? But we've all of the different periods. What is it? It's trying to think of this one song that and by the way, I still DJ hip hop and stuff at certain places, open format, because I mean I can never forget that. That's part of my roots.
Yeah.
But oh gosh, I have to look this up.
Yeah.
Oh, I got it. Sorry. Delphonics.
Okay.
Ready or not? Here I come.
Yep.
Gonna find you, right?
Yeah.
My father used to tell me this story about one of his contemporaries at the time who had this really great sound system, and he said, "Oh, son, you had to hear the bass on that song. Like you would never have heard it back in the 70s or the 60s, late 60s when it came out. But if you go to this house party where this girl had this really specialized audiophile type system, you'll hear that bass. And if you listen to that song today, it has great bass. Missy Elliott then samples that song. Sock It To Me. The Fugees sample that song. Yep. Ready or not? Here I come.
Yep.
So, you know, with us also creating house music, somebody has to do a house version of that, right?
Correct.
Because
yep.
that's almost showing love from start to finish.
Yep.
So it goes from soul music to hip hop to house. So it's really just a continuity of a tradition. It's already that even predates me. Some of my folks met at some house party in Queens.
Of course, but, and that kind of goes into representation. You know what I mean? Once you see, once you see yourself, you know, own a label. Once you see myself running a podcast, you know, and then the introduction of the music. I mean, that's the kind of the ground where obviously it's not going to, you know, happen overnight. But like we said earlier, that 10-year mark, you know, we introduced a kid that's 15 years old, you know, to it. 10 years later, he's 25 years old.
Well,
and he introduced, and that's how the movement works.
We got to teach the fundamentals, because I feel like a lot of people just want to get famous, right? So now, okay, so look at hip hop, and I still listen to it, man. I mean, I learned. Here's my thing. I had to, you know, when I first came back from the UK, I was like, man, what are we listening to now? But if you want to get some attention and you're doing, trap or what we call hip hop, I call it the triplet hi-hat now. Like if you don't have the, if that's not in a song, I literally used to see people walk off the dance floor when I got back to the UK and I'm playing stuff that I listened to in college. If you're not hearing 70 beats per minute with that rapping in a triplet beat like raindrops, drop top.
Yeah.
And I get it. Look, I'm not making fun of it. I like it. I like what's going on. I really like to listen to that music. However, those elements have to be in the music now for kids to even listen to it.
Yeah.
So they're not listening to house. They're not listening to Four to the Floor. Like you still have people that are like, oh, you're listening to that douche pump music.
Yep.
It's almost like you have to soften attitudes about it. And but if we were to teach younger folks, okay, this is how you make a bass line. These are many different ways how you make a bass line. You could play the bass guitar, or you could use a synthesizer that's in your computer and make these things, make them sound good. These are the sounds that people like. Give people those tools and then let them do their thing. Before you know it, you're going to have a new sound.
Yep.
And that's what is lacking. I had to not teach myself, but I had to learn how to make these things. And now I have like a Mr. Wright sort of sound. I have bass patches that only I have.
Yeah.
I have music theory in my head and certain modes and keys that I like to use that evoke the stuff I grew up with. Like when I listen to like hip hop, let's say rap.
Yeah.
Mobb Deep, Nas, when I was living in New York or when I was wishing I was living in New York, the tonality of those tracks guide what I like to make in house music. I'm not going to go do like we're using names here. I'm not going to do a Chainsmokers. I'm not going to do like a romantic kind of track unless I have to, or somebody's like, do this, do a happy thing.
Yeah.
Do a bass line where you hear fart sounds and sound effects, like, which is really popular. And that's great for that particular brand. Like, I get it. Like, that's great. But don't tell me that that's like genius.
Yeah.
Man, did you hear this? This is so good. This is amazing. I'm like, sorry, this is cool. Like, I like the production, but that don't really speak to me. Oh, you got to be kidding me. Like you just hating on this, you hating on that. No, I mean, this is good. And this appeals to you guys and all of that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to make stuff that appealed to me when I was coming up, or to the folks that I feel would appreciate it. And some people are cross. They're like, oh, I like that. I like that soulful sound. Or I like that kind of G house sound.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of Nas
exactly.
or Mobb Deep. Or come on, you must know this. Give me some artists.
Well, I'm saying, you said Mobb Deep, you got Biggie, you got Nas, you got
even Tupac.
You got Pop.
Even that West Coast sound where you had that G-funk kind of thing. What's the name? Dr. Dre. Those sounds.
You got Dre. Yep.
Why can't we take those either bass lines or those like din 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 din. Why can't we take those melancholy sort of sounds that spoke to life in the projects or in an area in New York City or New York? Let's just say New York, upstate New York, where it's quarter of the year, it's miserable. It's snowing, it's raining, it's dark. The leaves, I mean, I'm looking at palm trees right now, but your leaves, and you're like, I have to rake all of that stuff. I got to shovel the snow. You're not always, that's why it's weird for me being on the West Coast, because everything's happy and it's all upbeat and everything's great because it's sunny all the time. But like, I come from the East Coast where it's not always sunny all the time. That's why you go crazy and lose your mind when it's summertime. Like Will Smith, summertime, it's like, yes, thank God.
Yep.
But a lot of it's very melancholy. So I'm just saying, I want to bring some of those melancholy beats back, those introspective things for the people to sit in, and it's a rainy day or it's a snowy day. You can't go out like in Detroit. That's probably why techno's so sinister.
Yeah.
It's not very happy. It's not like, major keys. It's like, hey man, it's the weekend. We got piles of snow up and we're going to some underground warehouse thing, and we're not going to wear bright colors. We're going to wear dark colors because nobody can see us. Anyway,
For sure, man. For sure. Hell yeah, man. Well, it's been a great discussion, man. I wish I had you inside studio, like I said earlier, man, and then you can do your mix. But when everything calms down a little bit, for sure, we'll definitely have you in studio. We'll do it again. You'll throw down like a dope. I know you will throw a dope mix down. And thanks for first of all, thanks for coming in, or thanks for being on the podcast, for sure. It's greatly appreciated. I know.
Thanks for having me.
For sure, brother. I know during these times, with the coronavirus first, and then with everything going on in the world right now, I know it's everybody's, processing everything in their own different way. And I just want to say thank you again for coming on the podcast for sure. But
I'm honored, man. Thank you for having me.
For sure. Do you have anybody to shout out? Anything to plug? Where it can get the music at? Social media, all that stuff.
Gotta be a businessman. All social media.
For sure.
Mr. Wright Official. MRWRIGHT Official. That's Instagram, Facebook. We have a boat party here in San Diego that's called Deep Tech on the Bay, both Instagram and Facebook. We have a boat party in DC on the Potomac River. Deep Tech on the Potomac, Instagram and Facebook. And don't forget, Deep Tech Recordings. We have an album dropping tomorrow. Friday, whenever this is released. But
that's going to be June 5th, correct? Yes. Today's the 4th.
Wait a minute. Oh boy. Okay, so it's not tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
It's next week. I got ahead of myself.
It's all right.
So when this is released, Deep Tech Recordings has a new EP called Back to Groove, named by shout out to Lyell Brown up in Santa Monica, a good friend of mine who also does PR. She's done PR for me for releases. So she helped me name that, and she named my track that's on there called Pop It, which is definitely a funky jacking kind of track. But that track, that EP will be available Friday, June 12th. I was mistaken. I got the date wrong. So
okay,
it's Friday, June 12th.
And all the other music that you released, where can people get that?
Yeah, we have 4 EPs out now. If you go to BeatPort and you look for Deep Tech Recordings, or if you look for me as an artist, Mr. Wright, not official, but MR. I think there's a dot there in this situation. Everything else is not a dot. But on BeatPort, it's mr.wright. And you'll find my latest top selling track called Margarita Flavored Ice Cream.
Okay. That's long, but yeah, I like that.
It's long.
Yeah.
But you can also type in MFIC and it'll pop up just as well.
Perfect.
That's sharp there. See, I did a little MFIC in brackets, so you don't need to remember the Margarita Flavored Ice Cream.
Yeah.
But remember MFIC. That's a track that I really am